Hey, let's get it. Close this door.
Good
Hello.
morning.
Good
How are
morning.
you?
Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm well. Do you pronounce your name Sharif? Am I
Yep.
saying that right? Oh, perfect. Great. It's lovely meeting you.
Nice to meet you as well.
It's got to be cold up there in Michigan.
Cold. We've got about half a foot of snow too, so
Oh my
it's
gosh.
crazy.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
I'm
not
in
fun.
Florida.
Must be nice.
It is chilly here today. A cool 54, which is very chilly for us.
Yeah. Shoot, I will take that though.
Yeah. That's like spring weather for y'all.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thanks for meeting with me today. Do you want to run through like where you've been, what you've been doing, and then we can start hopping in on some questions.
Okay,
I'm sure
that
you'll
sounds
have some
great.
questions. I have some questions. So
Okay, sure. So, just to give a brief backstory of how I'm here today, I started at the side as an SDR and got promoted to an account executive. Love my time there. Really accomplished a lot, learned a lot, and unfortunately, just about 2 weeks ago, they had to lay off close to like a third of the company just due to like financials, things like that. Yeah, it was a startup company. It was ad tech, so really, I kind of could see it coming, but all in all, I really enjoyed my time. I got to do a lot of different things at the side, such as selling at trade shows. So, Affiliate Summit East was a really good conference for me. I had closed 3 deals there. Also, did a lot of like virtual selling through different email outreach cadences and campaigns. I would try and have just about a like 9 touch cadence. First few touches were emails. After that, 5 and 6 usually were like a LinkedIn connection with a note, an email message, and then that way by my like eighth or ninth touches, instead of a cold call, it was a lot more of a warm call, so to say. And then outside of my time at Decide, I did real estate sales, so that was making close to 300 dials a day, talking to a lot of really interesting
wow, that's a
people.
lot of talking.
Yeah, sometimes upset people too with real estate. I've got some crazy stories I could tell with that. Very, very fun times though. But outside of real estate, like just in the meantime, while I was at the side, doing the ad tech, I also developed and grown my own like virtual hiring agency, completely automated, really just offering like value-based content. So I also grew my own like social media brand to over 75,000 followers, and pretty much just offering a lot of the same tips that helped me make that transition from real estate sales to ad tech sales, such as having a good resume, having a good like first impression on the interview, researching the company, and making sure your LinkedIn profile looks good too. So just by offering those tips, that's been really successful over the last year or two. So I like to say I'm pretty good at social selling, in-person selling with the real estate or at conferences, and then like virtual selling online as well, over the phone or over video too.
And at Decide, what was the product you guys were selling?
Yeah, so it was actually a little bit similar to in markets. We were a native advertising like programmatic solution. So what was similar was we did a little bit of geo targeting, and we really used like data insights from previous campaigns we ran, but we were pretty ahead of the game due to like the privacy laws. So we weren't using third party cookies. We were programmatically placing based off of a CPA for whatever that brand was targeting. So whether it was an email capture for the lead, whether it was a product sale, or if it was a loyalty or subscription based, as long as it was down funnel and there was a revenue goal directly attributed to it, that's what we would optimize and focus on.
Okay. And who are you selling to?
So we were selling B2B for like retail brands or really any brand that was B2C. So any retail brand, I saw like some of the brands that, or kind of industries and verticals that InMarket works with, and it looks like you guys work with from finance to retail.
Yeah.
Consumables was another really good one that we sold to. Finance was really good too, like NerdWallet, Penny Hoarders. Those were some of our top brands with a lot of offers on our platform too.
And then, did you have a special vertical you focused in on those?
Honestly, no.
No, you go like okay. So, were you yours was just getting the meetings for the sellers? Can you explain
Yeah,
how that all
definitely.
works? for you?
So,
How does your process work?
So as I started as an SDR, really my role was doing a lot of lead gen, 120 leads a week for the account executives, and then as well setting that meeting up for the account executives. A lot of time I would jump on, just kind of shadow them, see how it's done. And over my time at the side, I got promoted to an account executive to where I started handling the full cycle from lead gen to actually getting on the sales call myself and closing it myself. So that's really how I kind of flourished at the side, was in being a closer.
And who were your contacts that you were selling to?
Yeah, so really,
Brand agency.
so we were selling to brands. We did have a separate agency department, but I was focusing on the brands, and then typically, depending on the company size, I was either targeting like a digital marketing manager, maybe a programmatic advertising specialist, or if it was a smaller company, then like a VP of marketing.
Okay. And what were your average order sizes that you guys were managing?
Yeah, so our test budget was $2,500, and we had clients who could spend upwards of $10,000 a day on our platform. But the minimum test budget, like I said, $2,500 to get started.
And for you specifically in your team, what were you on average
On
selling
on average, I was selling 2 deals a month
at that 2,500 price
Yeah.
point, or were you okay?
at the $2,500 price point. Now, not all clients stayed on past the test budget, especially because one, we had I would say a medium type of vetting process of our data team. Really wanted to make sure there was long-term potential for a partnership, because with that initial test budget, we were subsidizing close to anywhere between 70 and 90% of the actual traffic. So they were paying for just about 250,000 impressions, and we were subsidizing close to like 2.5 million. And
Wow.
yeah, the pricing, we priced off a dynamic CPM, so that we backed into whatever their CPA target was, just so we could test all the different inventory placements and see if there was a pocket for growth.
Were you guys buying on CPM though?
No, so we had different relationships like with Microsoft Network, Yahoo, CNN. So it kind of differs between, we had close to 2,000 publishers. So our price always differed, but most 9 times out of 10, we had like the best price. It really was just finding the right brands that we can convert on that traffic.
Got it.
And then whatever was in the middle, we would get that difference.
And then how what did like your average day look like when you were there?
Yeah, so average day was just about, I would say, 100 outbound touches, anywhere from like 50 to 100. So I would say most of that was, as I grew into the role, more of personalized outreach, personalized lead gen. Definitely when I started, it was kind of a lot of spray and pray and hope for the best. But what I attribute to my manager, Mark Sanders, when I was at SDR, he really helped us focus on like personalized outreach. So maybe that was a campaign with 50 emails a day, and then out of those 50 people that we emailed, maybe 10 of them we were going to send out a LinkedIn connection. I tried to get pretty kind of creative with the subject line, so maybe their first name plus my first name, meeting request, or maybe look through their interests on LinkedIn. If they're interested in Gary Vee, for an example, I would check out, like, send them one of Gary Vee's ebooks, because I'm interested in Gary Vee too. So just really being creative, a lot of different like strategies and tactics to either foster some engagement, get some opens and clicks. So by the time that I'm placing that cold call, at least they can put a face with the name, or worst case scenario, if not, they don't check it out. But either way, typically worked out to kind of build a relationship with our potential clients.
Okay. Did they explain anything about this role to you?
Yeah,
Who you
definitely.
met with? Brian?
Yeah, so Brian, he explained that I would pretty much be partnering like with the senior sales directors and just pushing to get more RFPs created and also working like with the client insights team. If I remember correctly, he said the first year there wasn't going to be too much prospecting, but it was really just working like with current clients, getting new offers up and running and making sure everything was running smooth.
So there is some prospecting. It would be prospecting on the key accounts that our AEs are working on under the executive directors on.
Okay, perfect.
So that there is prospecting, but it's probably a little warmer than you're used to because it's accounts that we have actually done work with before. We just may not have been able to tap necessarily into a certain division within it.
Right.
I will tell you, they are pushing for us to look for somebody with agency experience. So how much agency, because the RFPs are a lot of the RFPs we get are from agency.
Okay.
And so the AE role is like supporting the sales lead on completing those RFPs and delivering the insight, working, just like you said, working with the insights team, collecting the insights that are going to deliver and give a solid case to the RFP to help close and for us to potentially win. So how much experience have you had with agency, with RFP?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say between 25 and like 35% of my time at Decide was working with agency. A lot of time I was working like with one of our strategic account executives, Billy Cabrera, and he specialized a lot in agency outreach, like building those relationships with the agencies and then eventually like getting them on a call. So I worked pretty closely with him. I would just say about 30% of the time, whether it was just doing some simple lead gen for him and kind of creating some template messaging or actually jumping on those calls with him too.
Okay.
But no,
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that's definitely something I'm comfortable with too.
Okay. And then completing RFPs. Are you accustomed to doing those? Have you done those in the past?
Yeah, so RFPs we would call them IOs, like just initial offerings, but pretty much my understanding of a RFP is it's just kind of a projection for like a new offer or a new bidding on whatever product, kind of an agency or offer that they're running, correct?
Yeah, so typically what they'll do is they'll send us what they call an RFP, request for proposal, and it will give the objective of their client, it will give the targeting aspects of the client, it usually gives how they're going to measure it, what the KPIs are,
Perfect.
how they're going to measure it, and then we have to deliver on that. So it's building a deck to supplement it, PowerPoints, getting the avails from the ad ops team with the account management team, and then just putting that whole story together that delivers on their request for proposal.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, we just used IOs, like initial offerings. That's what we call them, but definitely have a lot of experience doing that too.
Okay. How about presentation deck building?
So deck building, we had our own in-house creative team. Our solution was fully managed, so we had a creative team, data team, editorial team. So they built all of the decks, but as an account executive, I was still the one getting on those sales calls, using the deck, and then closing them with it. So I'm comfortable closing with the deck, like presenting with a deck. I definitely could use some more practice, like creating those decks, but I'm super comfortable, like just using them.
Okay. And what do you like to do, Sharif? What's your favorite things to be doing? What do you enjoy at work and at home?
So at work, my passion is definitely sales and really just talking to people, seeing either how I can help them or kind of what their story is. Obviously, as you could tell, I like talking too. I like telling my story. So honestly, just networking, meeting a lot of cool people, building those relationships has been one of my favorite things. At my time at Decide, the conferences were super fun. We got to go out to some really nice dinners. We got to take some trips too, just team building trips, company building trips. So I love to travel. And then I would say in my spare time, I like to create content. That's really what I did in a lot of my spare time last year. And that's really would attribute it to the kind of growth of the hiring agency that I built too. So I would say those are my two favorite things. They both involve talking, which is a little funny, but hey.
I love it. And this the business that you created, this Wealth University virtual hiring agency, do you feel like that's your passion? Like, I would love to know, like, is that a thing that you really want to do more full time? Help me understand how that plays
Yeah,
into
so
why you'd want to come here versus like continue to build that.
yeah, I mean, definitely. So at this point, it's pretty automated. It's pretty hands off. The way I built it was kind of upfront, was helping a lot of people just one on one myself kind of get hired, and then they join the team as mentors. So right now, those are the people who are doing a lot of the teaching, but it's really a lot of pre-recorded videos and just templates and things like that. And long term, my career goals are to not only continue teaching people, but I also want to progress myself, progress as a salesman, progress as an account executive, be in a good industry that has a lot of opportunity for growth. So that's really why I'm focused on an account executive position, kind of diving deeper into the actual ad tech space, building some more relationships, networking, and really just learning more because as Wealth University works right now, there's only so much that I can learn when it was kind of a lot of just teaching. So that's a little bit why it's on the back burner and why I'm focusing on a new role now, just so I can gain those new experiences and be put in more challenging situations where I can grow a lot faster and learn more.
Awesome. Okay. Is there anything that Brian didn't cover that I can cover for you to give you the last 15 minutes here to pick my brain?
Definitely. I mean, the first thing I wanted to touch on, we touched on it a little bit, just about like the values, the like good peeps, like always improving. I really first wanted to kind of find out more about like the culture of the sales team. Like, what is that environment like?
So we have I think it's about 5 different pods. They call them sales pods. They're run by a leader of the pod. So I have mainly East Coast sellers.
Sweet.
And it's a mix of different skill set levels. There's some sales managers that are within their first couple years of selling, and then senior sales managers that have a pretty decent amount of experience selling, all the way up to executive directors that have had 10 plus years selling in a book of business in the probably
Wow.
5 million range for
Wow.
the year.
Okay.
So it's a smattering of different sales leads, like in the pod. Right now, the AE role is new to the pod, and they don't report into the VPs. They report into our boss,
Okay.
our SVPs. So there's 2 SVPs, Ryan and Lindsay, and they each have a couple of us. Like, I report into Lindsay, and she has like 2 others, and then Ryan has the other 2. It's I would say I've done both. I've been in sales for a very long time. I date myself here, but I've probably been in sales for almost 20 years. It's a different dynamic now because everybody's 100% remote.
Right.
So we have to work really hard, I feel like, to make sure that we have that camaraderie. They love Slack here. I will tell you,
Okay.
it's a very
Yeah,
big
that's what I've
Slack
used.
organization. They have a gazillion channels. I mean, seriously, a crazy amount of channels. They do a lot of stuff to try to bring the teams together. Every quarter they do a little retreat kind of thing, where they bring everybody together, and we will have a sales breakout. This will be my first one. I've only been here 6 months myself.
Okay.
So this
Cool.
will be my first. They did a hybrid one, but I wouldn't call that. I've pulled a couple of us that are in the same kind of regions together to sit together. I would say the sales team, that'll be like one of my first times watching the sales team get together, and we'll have a breakout session with sales.
That's cool. Where's it located at?
This one will be in Vegas. I guess they did one last summer in New Orleans, maybe? I think it was New Orleans.
That sounds
last
fun.
summer. Yeah. So they have definitely times where they bring everybody together. I think it's a couple times a year. So at least we get that camaraderie. I would say they're very helpful, the sellers. They have a great mentor program here where they partner you with somebody that has more experience in the organization.
Okay.
And they help you for like 4 to 6 weeks. and they are incented to help. Like there's a bonus for them to incent to
Nice.
help get the new team members up to speed. So I would say it's a pretty solid team for as best it can be when you're remote like this, where you're 100% remote.
Yeah, no, definitely something I'd be looking for. Tech stack wise, what are some of the tools that your sales team is using to do outreach? What CRM are you guys using? What are you using for lead gen?
So I don't know exactly what they use for lead gen. Not that I would. I probably should know. I don't know. I do know they use Salesforce Navigator,
Okay.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, love those.
Yep, I do know they have a plugin, Apollo or something.
Apollo
on top of that,
IO?
where they can get the emails.
Yep.
Yes, so they can
Okay.
get the email addresses off those. I think it might be Winmo would be the other one, and Media Radar.
Yep, I'm using Media Radar too.
Yeah,
Okay,
so those are
perfect.
some of the ones I do know that they have been using to get.
What is Winman? Winman's the
up.
only one I haven't used in the past.
I don't think it's that great, to be honest
Okay,
with you.
cool.
It's just-
Yeah, all the other ones comfortable with. I've used those too. Next question I wanted to ask, just in like your 6 months that here, like what have you learned? Like what would you kind of give as advice? Like how could I, in the first 90 days, kind of hit the ground running if I was hired to join the team?
Yeah. I would try to absorb as much of the information as you can.
Okay.
It's gonna be flying at you, and don't hold yourself like. I was telling one of the other AEs that came in, it's not. I don't feel like you should try to know everything, because my first 90 days, there's a lot coming at you.
Right.
I mean, you're learning about the media products and how they work, and there's multiple media products. You know, we have Moments, we have
Right.
Receptivity. They call them geotypes here, which are really just audiences. So there's a lot of vernacular that you learn that is specific to in-market, and it takes a minute to understand how all that works. They also have another part of the business, which is a measurement part of the business. So it's interesting, you know, I have some sellers that feel they came from our acquisition from Ninth Decibel when we acquired it. So they feel really strong selling measurement for our dining and retail. You know, sometimes they're not as strong as selling media. So I would say when you come in as AE, you want to make sure you're trying to embrace it all, but not hold yourself to like super accountable, because there's a lot of moving parts here. It's not as simple as like we just mainly focus on our one product. There's different layers to the product. I'm just now at 6 months feeling like, oh, okay, now I know what they're talking about.
Wow. Okay.
They throw out, you know, I think it takes about 6 months before you really feel like. I think 90 days is aggressive if you find. At least for me, I didn't have all of it down. And, you know, these AEs that we're hiring, they only have 1 to 2 sellers, maybe 3 that they're helping. So it's not like mine where I had 7 sellers under me, and I'm trying to learn their businesses. They are different verticals. That's the other piece of it. So that's what I was mentioning, like which verticals were you working on, because some have pharma, some have dining, some have retail, some have Outbev, some have CPG.
Right. Would there be a specific one that I may be focused on?
I'm sorry?
Would there be like a specific vertical or that I may be focused on, or does
I
it just...
don't know what I have an AE on my pod. I'm just part of the panel they put me on. I already have an AE on my pod, and she has a smattering. She has pharma, she has Outbev, and she has CPG.
Okay. Perfect.
I would assume it's probably a smattering for this one as well. I don't know if it's super heavy measurement, because we did just hire an AE that has a lot of measurement background, and they put him on the pod that is very heavily, mainly measurement sales already. So I don't know that it would be a ton of measurement at first.
Okay.
For this role, but I would assume there's like a couple different verticals. Brian might know better where this person will be placed.
Yeah. Okay.
So that might be a really good follow-up to him. Is like, you know, Nicole mentioned the AE that works on her team has a smattering of different verticals they're working within. You know, what would the verticals be for this role?
Okay, that makes sense. Next question too. So Brian mentioned that the commission structure was not revenue based but productivity based. if you could just
Yeah.
explain a little bit more, like what does that look like metric wise, KPI wise, like numbers wise.
Yeah. Yeah, because as a seller, you're like, wait, there's a number you hit, and then you get paid out on that. Yeah, they're what they call MBOs here,
Okay.
management business objectives, and they identify a certain number of objectives they want you to hit. There's a sheet that outlines how many or the different buckets you can hit. So it just depends on what your executives need for the week. It could be prospecting and helping map other divisions. It could be getting a meeting. I think you have to hit don't quote me on it,
Right.
but I think you have to hit 8 of the MBOs for the week. And like I said, it's just you can pull from the different categories depending on the workflow they're giving you.
Okay.
How many RFPs did you help and proposals did you help create and kick out? So it's outlined in that, and I don't know if Brian has that, but that could be another good follow-up. Is
I'll
what
definitely
are
follow
those
up.
MBOs? And maybe you can ask how well the team's hitting them.
Okay.
I do know Allison from my team's doing. The executives have nothing but great things to say about the time she's helping them save.
Sweet. Okay, perfect. Yeah. And then I guess last question that I'll kind of finish it off on, and I do want to be transparent too. I have been interviewing with some other companies. I've got a couple in the second or third round, but InMarket does, just with my experience, seem like the best fit. I love your values, just of always continuously getting better, good peeps, and a lot of the other things that really you guys are basing InMarket on. So was there anything holding you back from moving forward with me as a candidate? What would the next steps be?
So, great closing question. I would say the thing that there are others in the pipeline here too. I would say that the challenge we would probably face is that you don't have a ton of agency experience. That would be something that they would be looking for. You have no fear, obviously, because you've done the SDR, so that would be a positive. Completing the RFPs, I think, would be a learning curve for you, and that's just a decision the pod that you would be on would need to determine, I think. But I think those would be the main 2 areas, but your SDR work in their perspective could outweigh it. I think you would do well if it's not somebody that they need to hit the ground necessarily running, and they have time to help foster that with you, because I don't think that the outreach or any of that is going to be a challenge for you. You would be able to do that without a problem. But sorry, my cord just fell. I just don't know if how much weight they will put on that versus somebody else maybe not having outreach experience and prospecting experience and maybe having agency experience. It comes down to understanding which pod you'll be in and how much time the pod will have to help mentor and coach on those things. So, that's where I would probably say you're probably 50-50, honestly, Sharif, I would say.
That makes a lot of sense.
To determine if it fits the team that they're putting you on.
And what would you say the biggest learning curve just with the RFPs and getting those submitted is?
It's knowing what the agencies are looking for, how to speak in their terms. It's going to be pulling those presentations together. It's a lot of PowerPoint work. And we do have slides. I don't want to mislead you and think oh my God, I'd be building slides from scratch. That's not true. But it's working with the marketing team to get the slides. We do have a ton of slides. We use HighSpot here so we can see, who's people opening the deck, and we can beg, borrow, and steal from other team members. So they do load those RFP decks in a portal for us, but it's trying to understand and be able to speak to an agency and what they would need and what they'd be looking for when you're building out that story in the presentation. So
makes sense.
You have great experience for the prospecting side. It's just how heavy of a prospecting versus the weighting. I don't know what the weighting is for this team that this role is. For example, the one that just got hired for measurement, they were really looking for one focused on measurement. So even though people had agency experience, they we really need somebody that knows
Yeah.
measurement and
Okay.
support this team. So I don't know what that mix is. So my
That
feedback will
makes
be
sense.
like great prospecting, has a plan, like has developed a plan, and I love that you have a 9 touch point. I didn't have to ask you what your process is for
Right.
that. You already knew that, so I'm happy to share that with them.
Okay.
But I do think the challenge will be like if it is a heavy agency team that has sales coming in from the agency, that would be the only part that would be unfortunate.
Okay. That makes a lot of
But
sense.
everything else is great, honestly. I'm very excited for you to build your own business. I
Thank
tried
you.
that a couple years ago, right before I was doing that when COVID hit, and man, it was so tough.
I can imagine.
And wearing multiple hats is just like
Yeah, no.
so not me as like a sales
drives you
lead.
crazy some
I was
days.
like, oh my god, I don't do accounting. I'm terrible at that. I like bookkeeping, invoicing. Oh my god, I was like, I'm not getting paid on some of this stuff because I did not invoice. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
I've had that
you
happen.
just don't think about this shit stuff. Sorry.
No, it's
You don't
good.
think about it when you're like trying to build your own business. You're like, oh my god, I had people do this before, and now I'm doing
Yeah,
it.
you have to handle every single customer service, everything.
Every single thing.
Yeah.
So kudos to you. I mean, and I love Gary Vee. He's great.
I do too. I always watch his
He
stuff.
definitely is a great motivator. I love how he's like, at 40, what are you talking about? At 40,
You got so much time.
You got so much time. And I'm like, I know, I got so
Yeah.
much time. Tell him, Gary.
And I love Gary Vee.
Yeah. It was lovely meeting you.
It was a pleasure.
I wish you best of luck. And
Thank
I will
you.
put my notes in and let the team know, and then definitely follow up with Brian on his feedback on all that.
Okay, appreciate it, Nicole.
All
I'll
right,
follow
man.
with
Stay
Brian.
warm, buddy.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good
Bye.
one. Bro, she said 50-50.